Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing tonight? It's good to see you all. I hope everybody's doing well. Hey, CJK. Hi, Tech Death. Hey, Pigeon Mac. Hey, Jennifer. Hi, John. Hey, Zooter. Hey, Danger Dave. Hey, Rose Paradise. Good to see you and have you here. Hi, Savannah. Hi, Mbake. How are you? Hey, Unsolved. How are you? Danger Dave. It's so funny because when I was in the chat over the weekend with the MOB crew, I heard Chris call you Danger Dave, and I've been calling you DGR Dave for I don't know how long, and I felt really bad about that. So I'm really glad that I got that fixed. Can you guys hear me okay? I had some issues this afternoon with my computer, and it took me a minute to get those figured out. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Oh, Savannah, thank you so much. Awesome. Well, that's good to know. How is everybody? Anything happened to you guys in the last couple of days? I always like to catch up with you and hear what's going on out there. I think after this week, I'm going to start making a couple of changes to my lives. And one of the things, well, what I've been trying to do is I'm going to start creating a schedule for my lives ahead of time. And that way I know what I'm going to be. Hey, Amy, how are you? And that way I'll know what it is I'm going to be talking about way before. And if something happens with a case, or if something's breaking or whatever, then obviously we can preempt that. But I'm going to try to get more on a schedule with my lives. So I know that I've been talking a lot lately about Delphi and Flora together, and that becomes really cumbersome for me because my lives have been going over 2 hours long, and I really don't really want that. I know you guys are been wonderful, and you stick with me, and you watch, and you sit here and you listen, but your time's valuable as well. And I've just never been one of those people that wanted to do that, to have those super long live streams. But you guys can give me your opinions on that and let me know how you guys are feeling. Because obviously my members and my subscribers are the people that that I want to make sure are feeling comfortable with the content. So just give me, what you guys think on that, as far as, do you think they're too long? Do you prefer the longer ones? Do you like them? Also, more different types of content that you might like to see me cover. I am going to start doing a couple of different things with the content. I'd like to do something kind of seemingly fun once every couple weeks, where we are having something a little more light-hearted and not so dark. So maybe I will cover some stuff like haunted houses or something like that. I was thinking might be interesting. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I've always been really interested in that kind of stuff. So I thought that might be interesting to look into. Just give you an idea of some of the things that I'm thinking about for the channel. Thank you, Danger Dave, for telling me that you like the longer ones. I've heard both. I've heard people tell me that they're getting too long and they don't like it at all, and stuff like that. Trivia would be good. We could do trivia. See, Jennifer says she prefers the shorter ones. So thanks, Zooter. That's great, because that's me. I was kind of thinking the same thing, that we could kind of take a break on the really deep conversations sometimes that we get into. Hey, Michelle, so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. And everybody is going to have different opinions, and I can't please everyone, but I really want to try to mix it up a little bit, and maybe we can do one long one a week and then a shorter one, and then, an in-between kind of, and I'll work on that. So I just want to really keep the content moving. And a lot of times when the cases slow down, which Delphi definitely has, it's hard to come up with topics to discuss. And I don't want to just be talking about it and not really have much to say. But I will tell you this, that we had interesting information come out that I did post it on the community page, but ISP has added an additional detective to the case. And I thought that was good news. I was happy to see that. Hold on a second. I'm going to turn my phone off because I don't want it to interfere. So I thought that was interesting that they have added a detective. And I guess my feeling on that is twofold. They have a lot of information to go through when they're building this case, and they need that extra set of eyes, or they need more than what they have, and they need another person that's able to get out there and beat the streets, so to speak. Yeah, Tamara, I do have some more guests lined up that will be coming on. I like having guests. Unsolved and Meow Zedong, that's going to be a continuation. We are going to continue to have our lives together, but I may be appearing on their channels. I know that Unsolved is getting ready to start going live herself, which I'm really proud and happy about. It's about time. And so I'm going to help moderate her when she is live. So I look forward to that. So that'll be good. And there is a lot going on with the election, Savannah. I'm just really not comfortable with what's happening in that county with this whole election thing that's going. They are pushing Tony Liggett to the point that when they had the commissioners meeting, Steve Pearson was basically talking to Tony Liggett and Tobe Lesenby, who both were present and in uniform. So you've got the sheriff, the actual sheriff, And then you have a person who's running for sheriff, isn't sheriff. He's just running. He's on the ballot, and he's there in his capacity as whatever his capacity is, and I'm not sure if he's like just a sheriff's deputy or if he's got some other, stipulation or whatever for his role there in Delphi. But when Steve Pearson is talking to them, he basically says the current sheriff and the new sheriff. So he is basically talking about Tony Liggett as if he's already won the race, which isn't until November. And it is so wrong and in every way possible that he did this. Then he comes out afterwards and says, because the Carroll County Comet was in the audience and called him out on it and said, "What are you doing? You're in a professional capacity holding a commissioner meeting, and you're acting this way." And he got angry and he said, "Look, I am a card-carrying Republican and everybody knows it, and I'm voting for Tony Liggett." Well, that doesn't mean he's going to win, right? I mean, I was floored when that all came out and how it is the good old boys club. It's exactly what it is. I mean, they have already got this man handpicked and placed in the sheriff's chair when the election hasn't even taken place yet. It just blows my mind what this county continues to do. It just does. And I tell myself that, it's like that probably in a lot of places. But honestly, you guys, I don't know. It just seems to get worse every day. It's always something else that we either read about or we hear about, and it's just crazy. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about Delphi is the attitude and the approach of law enforcement when it comes to responding to missing children calls or reports often determines whether a child is recovered promptly and safely or continues to remain missing and endangered or murdered. And that comes from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And it's true how they respond. And when we talk about some of the response, I have been looking at old footage of Delphi back from the very first couple of days. I would say probably the 13th, 14th, and 15th of February from 2017, to see if there was anything that I missed, to refresh myself on things that were talked about by the media, and also things that were shown on like the helicopter footage from RTV6. There were a couple of things that I had missed that I thought, wow, I'm glad I went back and re-looked at that stuff. But one of the things that I noticed, you guys, we have all talked about Delphi and the fact that the dogs were called off. Do you guys all remember? We all have been talking about how awful that was, that the search dogs, the search and rescue dogs were called off that were coming out of Missouri. And I found that where that happened, actually heard it over the radio and everything. But while I was watching the footage, there was a guy who came out of the woods with two other um, sheriff deputies and a state trooper that had a black lab on a on a uh, on a leash, and he was down in the woods with them. So there were dogs used at that crime scene. And we can't just assume because the search and rescue dogs were called off that some of those dogs that they did bring in, whether they were just canines, um, canine officers or what. But what I really thought impressed me, or what I really thought about it, was everybody kept saying, the search and rescue dogs were so important because they could have got a scent on where Bridge Guy left from, or if he dropped something, or if he left clothing, or if he buried something, or whatever, they would have gotten a scent. So I thought it was really important when I noticed that. I don't know if anybody else has or whatever, but that was something. No, that was law enforcement, the one I saw. Digital, I know who you're talking about, or the one you're talking about, because I think that person was out by like a pickup truck or something. I've seen that footage of that particular person. This person was with officers and they were coming out of the woods. And this was an officer in a uniform with a dog. And so I think that this happened, the dog that I saw was after they had found the girls. So this was not prior to them finding the girls. And anyway, so the other thing that I read was that it's been considered by law enforcement one of their biggest mistakes that they have made in the case was calling off those dogs. So even though we've been super critical of them, they know that themselves. So I do applaud them, at least of owning up to that. And we can't go back, guys. We can't go back to that time and make all that stuff right. I mean, it's obvious that we're going to be able to have 2020 sight on this case, when we can look back on it. When things are happening in real time, it's completely different. And there were a lot of mistakes that were made, in my opinion, but I do believe that comes from lack of experience in anything like this case. And they couldn't have done an Amber Alert because with an Amber Alert, you have to show that they can't just be missing. There has to be a reason to suspect that they are in imminent danger. And usually that comes because someone sees something or knows something with an Amber Alert, where they can put out a bolo, basically be on the lookout for this car, this license plate, maybe in the company of this individual or someone who looks like this, or the car was described as this. Those are the kinds of things that you have to put out an Amber Alert. And a lot of times people aren't aware of that. I'm not saying that law doesn't need to be amended in some way, but I don't understand why putting out an Amber Alert for missing children would be a bad thing. you have more people's eyes, um, you have more people's eyes on the hey Paris, welcome, on the event. You know, you put it out, you know, when I get an Amber Alert, I get it, it comes on my phone. I get them through my Ring, on my Ring doorbell. They come through there in the neighborhood. I get them all different ways. So they have the ability to use a lot of different software to put out Amber Alerts, you know, and those things can be quite helpful, I would think. Um, and one of the other things on Delphi that I wanted to talk about tonight is the recent, um, a lot of things that were happening in 2016 and early 2017 in and around Carroll County, and especially in and around Delphi, is they were having massive, in my opinion, amounts of residential burglaries. Lots of them. In fact, the Carroll County Comet released a list of all of these burglaries in the newspaper. I mean, they gave the date, the time, and where they were happening. And one of the things that they have said about burglaries is that burglaries are known by recent studies that breaking in residential dwellings is more likely to be a sexually motivated act than previously thought. Now, I always used to think that when people were breaking in your house, residential burglaries, they were going for TVs and VCRs and all of these, you know, electronics or cash, or, you know, quick grab items that they could make money with, or they were looking for drugs. Hey, Michelle, thank you so much for your super sticker. So nice of you. I appreciate you so much. So, with that being said, experts have recently requested that they start adding DNA to the National DNA database from these burglaries. And I thought that that was quite interesting when I was reading about that, because, wow, that would really help increase the DNA database and possibly, you know, catch some of these violent perpetrators that start out as burglars, you know, burglarizing residences and then escalate to other crimes, because they definitely say that they do. It is a pattern that happens. But there was a lot of them. So when you look at the caseloads in Delphi and in around Delphi as far as crime, there's a lot of crime. Maybe not a lot of murder, but there is a lot of crime. And I was very surprised when I started looking at it, and wondering, kind of like, well, what does all that mean? Does it have anything at all to do with what happened to the girls that day? And I just thought it was interesting when I came across the information on the burglaries and them being more often now sexually motivated than we've ever thought before. So I thought that that was interesting information that I wanted to give you guys. And hold on one second. I wanted to, where is my, I got something here that I gotta find, guys. Just give me a second. Give me a moment. Gotta get my notes up, because I took a lot of notes for this live this time. So I want to get those up so that I can go off of them. I said that we were going to talk about coincidences because we have a lot of coincidences. And I was talking to Allie the other day about this, and I said that what we should do is sit down and do something where we list what they all are, because I think it would be really enlightening to show what some of these coincidences around Flora and around Delphi are. So one of the things that I found was people ask all the time, are coincidences real? Do they really happen? And the answer is absolutely. It's all it all has to do with probability. And pretty much any event or object in our lives has the power to generate coincidences. It's just that we don't notice the vast majority because they're boring. Like seeing 2 blue cars parked next to each other, or 6 blue cars all in a line. And that's just an example. So, what is the difference between coincidence and synchronicity? We've all had it happen to us, a series of signs or events that were too thought-provoking or emotionally touching to be just coincidence. And this amazing phenomenon is called synchronicity. It's defined as a meaningful coincidence, an event on the outside that speaks to something on the inside, as opposed to just a random occurrence. And I think if we all sit back and look, we can certainly think of those things. We've all had them happen to us. But what's interesting is, how many coincidences does it take to make a fact? And indeed, a traditional account of coincidences has its 2 facts are coincidental whenever none of them causes the other, and they do not share a cause that is or brought about independently. So they're brought about separately. And I thought that those things were interesting about coincidences. Where did I do with my... There it is. So there was a study done on how scientists explain coincidence. Is there meaning in coincidence, or are we trying to impart meaning to make sense of our lives? For materialistic scientists, coincidences are a matter of statistics. They happen to almost everyone at some point. However, people desperate to find meaning or order in their lives are eager to interpret those coincidences in a way to impart meaning on them. And for Carl Gustav Jung, one of the icons of modern psychology, coincidences are related to an intangible process which cannot be explained by causes and effects, but instead by meaningful, invisible connections, or synchronicity, as he coined it in the 1950s. Now, Jung updated his definition of the term synchronicity from time to time, and he also called it the principle of correspondence, which means everything is connected in a meaningful sense. And he wrote this in a book called Aeon Research into the Phenomenology of the Self, When coincidences pile up in this way, one cannot help being impressed by them. For the greater the number of terms in such a series, or the more unusual its character, the more improbable it becomes. He believed that due to the incomplete human understanding of nature, humankind excludes observable facts from our understanding or else formulates them in an unjustifiable negative way, to dismiss the possibility of coincidences as meaningful connections. But others, like Gibbe Williams, who's a psychoanalyst and the author of Demystifying Meaningful Coincidences, he disagrees with Jung and his passionate followers. And he says, you're looking for patterns. It's like you're on your own psychological scavenger hunt, and you look for pieces to fit the puzzle. And the complete pattern is experienced as a synchronicity. And that is what Williams said. One of the most famous cases of whether a coincidence hides a meaningful fact or not happened to Jung during a therapy session with a young female patient. She was a fierce rationalist. And Jung explained the famous incident in his book, Synchronicity and Causal Connecting Principle. A young woman he was treating had at a critical moment, a dream in which she was given a golden scarab. While she was telling me the dream, I sat with my back to the closed window. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me, like a gentle tapping. I turned around and saw a flying insect knocking against the window pane from outside, the psychologist recounted. I opened the window and caught the creature in the air as it flew in. It was the nearest analogy to a golden scarab that one finds in our latitudes, a scarabid beetle, the common rose chafer, which, contrary to its usual habits, had evidently felt an urge to get into a dark room at this particular moment, he continued. Jung believed the coincidence of the insect's visit to his office during a therapy session with the young woman was in fact not one at all. While the two incidents were apparently separate, they were intriguingly tied to each other by the way of the synchronicity, according to Jung. And after the incident, the woman's strict stance of rationality collapsed, according to Jung, allowing the psychological process of transformation to begin for her. What I found were coincidences, which were connected so meaningfully that their chance occurrence would be incredible. Jung was good friends with Albert Einstein, a towering physicist of the modern era, and both men inspired each other to develop their respective theories, quantum physics for Einstein and synchronicity for Jung. Consciousness and coincidences. Some psychologists also believe that seeing everything as a matter of chance might not be a good motivator for the development of the human mind. And a 2015 study showed that human minds struggle to make sense of things, helps improve mental health. Coincidences help humans establish similarities and distinguish differences, according to this study. And once we spot a regularity, we learn something about what events go together and how likely they are to occur. And these are valuable sources of information to begin to navigate the world. And Magda Osman, an experimental psychologist at the University of London, who co-wrote the study, said, experts also think that coincidences most often happen to people who are mindful and notice things around themselves, which is a very positive thing. But at the same time, this mindfulness might justify the skeptics who think that seeking meaning in every coincidence is the ultimate reason behind people finding a meaning in random incidents. And people who describe themselves as religious or spiritual, those who are more connected with the world around them, and those who are seeking meaning or in distress and searching for signs, are more likely to experience coincidences, said Bernard Beitman, a visiting psychiatry and neurobehavioral science professor at the University of Virginia. He was also a coincidence researcher. Heck, I didn't even know they had coincidence researchers. But Beltman, who went through some real personal experiences, almost confirming Jung's synchronicity theory, also thinks that coincidences might have particular structures, which could be perceived not just by religious people, but all others too. So just as sharks have ampullae in their skin that detect small electromagnetic changes to help them locate their prey, it's very plausible, maybe even probable, that humans have similar mechanisms that can detect coincidences, the professor said. So I thought that that was a really interesting article, and I will post that in my description below if anyone wants to go check it out. It's from March of 2021, but I thought it was interesting how they talked about that, because we have a lot of coincidences going on in these cases, and there's a lot of things that people will just dispel as coincidence. And I'm like, we have to look at, is it a coincidence, or can the coincidences be considered factual? And again, when we're looking at data, when we're talking about fires and the fire deaths that are happening in and around Carroll County, the data speaks for itself. Now, why someone in law enforcement hasn't gotten wind of this or paid attention to this and asked the same questions, I do not understand. And I can't answer that for you. All I can tell you is that there are people putting information out to law enforcement in all capacities. The local law enforcement, the ISP, the FBI, and people, I don't know if people are just not getting responses from these organizations, or if they are just plain not responding or looking at it. What video are you talking about, Digital? I don't know what you're talking about, my dear. I don't know what video you're speaking of. One of the things that Unsolved just brought up is that a lot of times what these criminals will do is they will commit crimes in multiple jurisdictions because they know that it causes confusion and that it will lead law enforcement to not know exactly what's going on. It's no secret that law enforcement jurisdictions don't communicate well together. It is just not something that they do. And especially in rural America, because it goes back to They don't want to look like they need outside help. They don't want to appear to not know what's happening within their own community. And they don't, a lot of times, want that information out. They want to just absolutely take care of everything themselves. And that's why a lot of people won't ask for help when they need it. They won't contact other jurisdictions and say, can you help us out on this? Or do you have anything that's similar? Or how do you feel about this? And so that's part of it. It's ego. And I think there's a lot of ego around these cases for sure. And I see in the chat we're talking about perception and a mother's perception and things like that. And I'm is to say that it's a real thing. It's almost like a sixth sense, eighth sense, whatever, that we have as mothers. And my mom used to say things to me when I was growing up, and I would be like, do you have eyes in the back of your head? How do you know that? Because she was right. And it's just like, moms know. It's hard to pull the wool over mom's eyes. It's just something that I've always felt about moms. I know that there's an old saying about your gut feeling, go with your gut. We need to listen to that more often. But these coincidences, there's too many of them to just be coincidental. I think these coincidences lead us to believe, or leads me to believe, that there's more factual things happening around them than not. And to dispel that or to ignore that is not in our best interests. Zooter says his mom was like that. She was like a drill sergeant, and boy, did they run a lot. Yeah, I totally understand that one. But it goes back to people saying, hey, Just Pam, how are you, my lady? So good to see you here with us all. And Carla's right. Historically, women have had to be more diligent about our safety. We have had to be mindful of what's going on. We're taught as soon as we learn to drive, make sure you check the back seat before you get into your car. And you're constantly on edge because you're constantly out there wondering, what my surroundings are, what's going on. And now with the digital age, with our cell phones, it's people get so locked up with having that device up against their head, or they're like this looking at it all the time, that they pay attention. Hey, Cold Truth, how are you? It's so good to see you. Welcome. And thank you. Did you decide what you were going to do with your hair? I haven't heard. But yeah, we could have a whole show on what's wrong with cell phones and how they've hurt a lot of things. But one of them is safety, for sure, because I think it was in Indianapolis. I'm almost positive it would happen in Indianapolis at a mall, and it was all over the internet. Some woman was walking and she had her cell phone and she was looking at it like this, and she was just walking and walking and walking, and she walked right into the fountain. I mean, she fell literally head first right into the fountain. I don't know if Indianapolis Mall has one, but wherever this was, I thought it was Indianapolis. I really do. But anyway, um, she fell into this fountain because she wasn't paying attention to what was happening around her. So, yeah, Michelle, I say that to my grandchildren all the time. But I've never been that crazy on my phone that I would be able to do that. I tend to try. I'm too clumsy. There's no way. Um, yeah, people have gotten hit by cars as well. Yeah, step out in the street because you're not paying attention. I mean, or you're walking too slow, and then it's like, you go out to eat with friends or whatever, and everybody has their phone. Nobody's talking anymore. Nobody's having those conversations. Um, Very funny, peace not silenced. You sound like me. I probably would too. Um, but you know, it's just about perception and paying attention. And when we get information and we're looking at it, we have to look at it with an openness. And um, these these data points on the fires in and around Delphi and Flora, they're too striking to not pay attention to them. And how we get others to get this message out, I'm still racking my brain. I'm not giving up. Um, I'm still trying to figure out how to get it to go national, because I really do believe we need national eyes on all of this that's happening. And we need somebody who is going to be do their due diligence in researching it, looking at what research we've already provided to them, because there's a ton, there's a lot, and then see what comes of that investigation on their part. A lot of times people with the media credentials can get in more doors than just the average citizen. And that's why I really want to see that happen. I just really do. I'm having my sin tonight, you guys. Here's my tea. I told you guys I don't drink coffee, but I love my tea. I love chai tea. I love all kinds of tea, but chai tea is my absolute favorite. And I love chai tea iced lattes. I just I do drink them with skim milk, but I just love them. And that's the only way I get caffeine is through the tea. So, because I try to stay away from it. And for those of you who don't know, you can buy me a tea now because I am on Buy Me a Coffee. So that site is wonderful. And believe it or not, when I dropped it that night and told you guys about it, somebody bought me teas. So I was very excited about that because who doesn't, like their coffee or their tea or their beer or their pizza or whatever. It's really nice if you guys that are content creators don't know about it. Go to the website buymeacoffee.com and sign up for it, because it's really a cool way to interact with your subscribers and your members. And I think it's really nice. But yeah, they can buy you a beer, they can buy you whatever. So it's just kind of cool. So anyway, that's kind of where I was going with that tonight with Delphi. And oh, I love that song. And so, you know, let's move on to Flora for a little bit. I want to ask you guys a question. And I'd like you guys to answer it for me honestly. Why do you think that Carroll County would not want or why do you think Carroll County would rush to say that the Flora fire was accidental when all the evidence was pointing to the complete opposite and that it was incendiary? Why do you guys feel that they would do that? Nobody's answering me. Okay. Well, I will say this. I think there's a reason. My nose is bugging me. I don't know why. It's itching like crazy. The insurance company paid out within just weeks of the fire. And then comes January 2017 and the state fire marshal reverses the decision on it being accidental. And all I can say is that something is not right here. Now, this is what I think. I'm just going to kind of throw this out there a little bit. Why would they rush to claim the fire was accidental? Because they wanted the insurance money, whoever would be getting the insurance money for a claim on the house that burned. Why would they be so quick, like almost immediately quick, to point fingers at the mother without any investigation? Something isn't right here. You know, Randall was accused of claiming that it was incendiary too soon. But what if somebody was telling him to do that? What if he was only following orders and he just wrote up what he was told? Now, he did end up ruling it that way, but he didn't have any scientific evidence at that time of it, which is what got him into trouble because he didn't follow the protocol. But to me, they were trying to pin it on Galen. And it took a private investigator to stop that accusation about Galen. It took a PI coming in to stop it. And I don't know that it's ever been completely stopped because the damage has already been done. They already put out into the press and into the social media and everywhere the community, and everywhere. They already pointed the finger at her. They already threw her under the bus. Even the head of the ISP absolutely did the same thing by saying that the family was uncooperative and that they needed to know who was coming and going to the house in the weeks and months prior to this fire. Well, all you have to do is ask them. The family has cooperated. They've done everything asked of them. Everything. They have not refused any sit downs with law enforcement or anything. Josh Dissinger collected witness statements, and he attempted to spin the narrative that she is in some way had someone set that fire. And then others publicly went along with that and implied that she knew what happened that night and that she wasn't talking about it. And this began this whole thing that was happening around this time caused the community to ostracize her. And how would you feel being a mom who just went through the worst imaginable loss of your entire life, watching your 4 babies die in front of your eyes and not being able to help them? And now you've got everyone pointing their finger at you, saying that you did it. No wonder she left Flora. No wonder she hightailed it out of Indiana. For God's sake. I just can't. I just can't. I mean, it's clear by the documents that at first they wanted to say it was accidental. But then when it became clear that the state was looking into this as very suspicious and that most likely it was going to be arson, they changed their tune. And that's when they decided, well, we got to move quickly and pin this arson on somebody. Why not the mom? And I just think that that's what happened. I think that that's exactly what happened. Do you know that law enforcement didn't even contact Galen personally and tell her that the fire had been deemed arson? She had to hear that on the news. She had to hear on the news that her children were victims of murder. Carroll County spent over $30,000 to suppress the 911 calls in this case. $30,000. Boy, they must be a really rich county, don't you think? They wanted him suppressed from the public. They also have not donated or helped to raise a dime for the reward fund for these girls. Not a dime. But they did pay $30,000 to keep that 911 call swept under the rug. And continue to do so to this very day. And now the $18,000 that was supposed to be for the reward for anyone who had information coming forward that would lead to an arrest of the arsonist. Nope. Now they gave that. The community decided, well, yeah, we raised this money, but the community center said, their board said, nope. 5 years has passed. It's enough time. Nobody's come forward. So it's time to give this money to the fire department who failed the girls so they can buy a new fire engine. And what's funny is that when Trent was the fire chief, when he was asked about this, he was like, well, I don't know about any money being given to us yet. Although the rumors are flowing everywhere that they're going to use the money to purchase a new fire truck. There are arsonists in Flora. Todd Cryer is one of them. And he was arrested for numerous fires and was arrested in the fall of 2017, a year after the Flora fire. Now, I'm not saying he's responsible for this fire, but I'm just telling you there are arsonists in Flora that have been arrested. The county also reported that there was a single smoke alarm working in the Flora home in the days after the fire. And we know that's not true by the documents that have come out. The state marshal investigated and saw that it was not working. Within weeks, an investigator was contacted by the state police that found that it was without a battery during the fire. In the county's version of events, the smoke alarm is going off in the 911 call. Now, either it's working fine or it's without a battery. It can't be going off without a battery. And Josh Ayers testifies under oath that a detector was working at the time. And that also was untrue. How was this man able to collect insurance money on this fire if he wasn't in compliance as a landlord? I don't understand that. I don't think I will ever understand that. And why is it that this county is so damn apt not to release the 911 calls that would settle this once and for all? Do you think it's because someone lied and they're trying to cover their butt? The county is deflecting. The county is trying to have us look everywhere else so that we don't look at their culpability by refusing the ISP access to the reports and evidence. And something just doesn't smell right to me. And it hasn't for a very long time. And I really do believe that when this is all said and done, there's going to be some heads that may roll in this that end up losing their jobs, may have charges brought against them. Who knows? All of those things could be quite possible. And if there's any obstruction of justice going on here, then, that is also something to look at. Because lying about, an investigation is, that's against the law. I'm really hoping, CJK, that you're right and that all of us talking about this case since May, because I started covering Flora heavy in May. And I'm hoping that all of the social media and content creators that are covering Flora now has gotten law enforcement to realize, and the fire department, that we're not going away. We're not going anywhere. We've made them very aware of that because we have sent them all the information on these fires that they need. We have sent them enough information and data that they should be highly suspicious of what's happening. And someone needs to take a stand and stand up in front of a podium and say that they're going to have a special prosecutor look into all of this. Because that's what I think it's going to take. Whether it's the Justice Department that comes in and does it, whether ATF, I mean, they're already saying ATF's involved in Stephanie's fire, Thompson's fire in Monticello. I don't know, and I don't see any evidence that the ATF is involved in Flora. I'm hoping that they are, because the accelerant used seems to be something quite unusual. Something that you just would not be able to go and do. You would need to know more information. Maybe a chemistry background, something. Because this accelerant that was used is showing patterns of not being something common. And that could be one of the problems that they're having with this, is trying to figure out where this accelerant came from. And if it was homemade, who has the capability to do that? Because I've heard Doug Carter say that they had a lot of suspects in the beginning of this case. There were a lot of suspects that they looked at. So my thing is who are they, and did they have the ability and the know-withal to make something this unusual? And I'm hoping that soon we will get some sort of a determination of what went on in Monticello. Because again, we cannot dispel the thought or turn our heads away from the fact that Stephanie was working on the Flora case. And we know that. They only have 6 polygraphers in the state of Indiana, 6. She's working out of the Lafayette district. She's handling the northern part of the state. And CJK, that's correct, a firefighter would. And like I said, I know that it sounds tough and it's real easy to sit here and point fingers or whatever, but these things are so blatant that we have to report them. We have to keep talking about them because we need eyes on this. And unsolved crimes, Allie is right. In Logansport, we have 6 people were killed, 3 children. And the dad died that night in Peru, Indiana, and it wasn't a suicide. And we don't have ATF looking at this fire. Now, come on. What's going on? And this family in Logansport is related to Brad Holder and Logan Holder. And Logan, as we all know, was the boyfriend of Abby Williams. So, I mean, there's a lot of connecting points in these cases. And when you start putting your pegs, on the board and you start dragging your string, I mean, it gets really crazy fast. Hey, Melissa, how are you? Welcome. Hey, Bridget. Good to see you too. Hi, Mike. Hi, Mike Essery. Good to see you as well. I appreciate all you guys. So glad you all could make it tonight. The Rossville fire. That one is suspicious. It's so easy to just deem them accidental and move on. And I don't understand why they would do that when the facts are out there that are showing how these fires are intertwined. And as Allie said, the connections are undeniable. And it's flooring to know that law enforcement has not made the connections until maybe now. And maybe seeing what we've put together has given them the wherewithal to say, you know what, these guys are right. And we need to take a better look at this. And I thank God if that's what's happening, because I'm here to tell you that these 4 little girls they deserve justice in their case. Yeah, they're not hurting anymore, and they're, and all of that. But at the same time, what happened to them should never have happened, and they deserve justice. And Galen deserves justice for her family that she lost. And, I hope and pray every single day for closure of both of these cases. I am always waiting for that text message to come across my phone from the FBI or from Carroll County, because I've got alerts set up on my phone that if you if they arrest someone, I'm going to know. And I really want that to happen. Yes. The autopsies were done, Lynn, on the girls, all 6 of the girls. The Delphi girls and the Flora 4 all have autopsies. And I've seen the autopsies on the Flora 4. I've seen those documents. So, oh, Suzanne, that's interesting to know. The White County Sheriff and the prosecutor are embroiled in conflict. Can you elaborate on that at all, Suzanne? I would be really interested to know. So White County is where Monticello is, correct? Isn't that White County? I hope I'm right. Yeah, Savannah, that's, okay. I thought it was, Suzanne. Thank you. I try to keep this stuff in my head, but I'm telling you, sometimes it all bleeds together. I want Stephanie Thompson to get justice. Her and Maya didn't deserve what happened to them either. And it's just mind-boggling to me. And I just can't. Says that the prosecutor cannot get information from the sheriff. All is not well in the county. Boy, that doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound good at all. Man. I guess I don't know how you go about. Suzanne, has anybody covered that like locally in the newspapers or anything? Does Stephanie's husband have any pull as his position to try to intervene in that, or what? I mean, it's pretty bad when you've got your sheriff and your prosecutor not working together. You're not going to solve anything that way. They won't have any crimes solved when you've got the sheriff and the prosecutor bickering. Oh, I'm going to have to look into that, Suzanne. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention, because I hadn't paid attention to that part of it. I do know that a lot of this stuff is political. It shouldn't be. It's like I was talking about in the very beginning with Delphi when we went live, talking about Tony Liggett and Tobe Lesenby. This stuff has become so political, and we're talking about dead children that never get to have their life and died the most horrific deaths I can imagine. Burning to death or suffocating, one or the other. It's just horrific. Yeah, exactly, Digital. White County, where Ray Hanish cannot get justice either. I mean, we have somebody sitting in jail who admitted on a live broadcast on YouTube that he was culpable of that crime, and nobody has been charged with his murder. And it's sad. It is really sad. Yeah, exactly. Nothing to see there, though. They're looking into it. It's crazy. There's no accountability. That's the problem. And if you have a sheriff and a prosecutor in a county fighting, who's going to oversee that? Who is over them that's going to make them, stop and play nice and help each other like they're supposed to? The constituents, that's who. The people that vote them into office and put them into office. It's the only way that it's going to happen. If you keep voting those same types of people into office, nothing will change in those counties. It sounds to me like people need to stand up in that community and ask what the heck's going on. That's what I would say. Excuse me. Suzanne says that the sheriff is the problem child. Thank you, Jennifer. Sophie, I don't know what you're talking about. Is he talking bad about me? And I've gotten no apology from him, but I don't know anything about it. Um No, I tend not to watch him very often unless he has something breaking. Or if somebody tells me something that was said that does watch. I really try to stay out of the drama on YouTube. I found out the hard way. It's better left to the drama queens and kings because I'm not one of them. Mbake, I know that is the truth, and that's the sad thing is that because of how he was promoted, in my opinion, wrongfully. That's why they have a lawsuit against them for breaking the Hatch Act, among other things. These people need to be held accountable for the things that they're doing that they feel that they're just above the law and that they can get away with. That was another thing that Steve Pearson said at the commissioners meeting when he was talking to Tobe and Tony Liggett, because he made the offhanded comment, well, those people up in Michigan, they can just stay there. And he was talking about the people who brought the lawsuit against them in Carroll County. So, oh, you're welcome, Sophie. Not a problem. My channel is a drama-free channel. We don't have drama here. I don't allow it. I don't want it. I don't speak badly about other creators. I stay out of that stuff. Yeah, I heard about this. I did hear about this, Suzanne. The judges are doing some kind of coalition for juvenile probations. Um, yeah, yeah. And we know, well, most of us probably know who the Carroll County judge is. Yeah, Jennifer, I'd kind of like to know what he said too. I may have to go try to figure that one out just to know. Um, um, yeah, digital, it's fine if she wants to tell us what was said. Um, hey, Mad Dog Bob. So they are the Carroll County also has another lawsuit against them for excessive force, and Yoder is one of the people involved. Just and these people are the same people that are involved in Flora, they're involved in Delphi. I mean, it's all intermingled, yet we're told, don't you dare put those two cases together. Don't you dare try to connect those two cases. Those cases are connected, whether we want them to be or not. It may not be the same person that did the crimes, but the cases are connected based upon the people around the case, law enforcement, the fire departments. They're all the same people. It's all in the same county. It makes me so angry that people don't understand that. Oh, Lynn, I get told that all of the time. When I'm doing a show, you wait at the end of this show, there'll be comments on my live later where they will come out and ask me not to connect the two cases together. So, I mean, I don't get it. Jack Spratt says, no, they're not connected. It's coincidence. Well, that's what I was trying to explain tonight. So I'm glad somebody got it. But anyway, you guys get where I'm coming from. And there's just a lot, here we are. Oh, that's the other thing. I don't know if I mentioned this the other night, if I forgot it on Tuesday night or not. I think I forgot. But Kagan Klein's case has been continued, you guys. Kagan Klein will not be appearing in court next month. He asked for a continuance on his case, and it's been continued till January. Now, just so everybody knows, Kagan Klein was arrested in August of 2020, and every single time he has had a court date to start a trial, he has asked for a continuance. So it's not been one or two times, it's been every time. All of 2021, all last year, all of this year. And so what does that mean? None of us know. I've had people say things like, well, it means that he's working with law enforcement and he's trying to make a deal. How long is that deal going to take? Is my question to that. And we were told by his attorney early after December, when his name came out, that they were done talking. There was not going to be a plea deal in this case, and they were done talking. So I don't know who to believe, really and truly. Now, I know that there's a couple people on YouTube, I think Frank Meister's one of them, who said that he put money on Kagan's books to talk to him by phone, and he did. And Kagan told him he cannot discuss the case. His attorney has advised him that's not in his best interest. Whoa, you think? Maybe he shouldn't have talked to HLN either. What do you think about that? I mean, there's some of this stuff is just so crazy. I mean, I don't know too many lawyers that want your client to go on national television and talk about an ongoing murder investigation that you've not been charged with, but you might be being looked at for. You know what's funny, Savannah? He has a public defender, so he can seek new counsel if he wants to. That's his choice. But he's not paying for an attorney. He's not paying for a lawyer. He has a public defender. And so every time he asks for a continuance and gets a new public defender, they just have to get up to date on the whole case. So I would think that the district attorney in this case would want to be pushing this to trial, getting it off the books. I don't know what is going on, and it makes no sense. Um, it makes absolutely no sense. None whatsoever. Um, so I just thought that that was interesting because I know I'd heard somebody in here a week last week maybe talking about maybe everything would happen and come to fruition on September 22nd, because that's when he was going to go to court. And I'm just like, no, that's not going to happen. So it will be interesting to see what happens next in that whole situation. I still have my doubts about what's going on there. Um, so, but you know what's so funny is, oh, really, Dave? Really? That wouldn't be surprising. That would not be surprising because the FBI says that one of the most difficult cases to prove is CSAM when you have a situation with multiple people having access to devices, when it's all digital. And we know that that's what we're looking at here in that case against Kagan. Multiple people. And they have to be able to prove who was doing what, when, and at what time. And that can be really hard to do. So he's admitted to some. So we know that, yeah, he is going to do time. But I don't think he's going to do the amount of time that I've heard people saying. I mean, I heard somebody the other day say something like 150 years. No, he's not. He won't come close to doing that. Not even, that won't even be even talked about, that kind of a sentence. So, I don't know. It's going to be, yeah, Paris, that would be the judicial system, or that would be the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice oversees and polices the state polices. They overlook if there's corruption in a location, whether it be police department or city or county. The Department of Justice is the one from the federal level that goes in and does those investigations. And that's the agency that would need to receive the complaints. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. I think it's a lot of us have to just keep reminding ourselves to stay faithful, and have faith in what is transpiring behind the scenes that we don't see. I I have good days and bad days with that. I have days where I'm very frustrated and I just feel like, man, where is this going? Are we getting anywhere? And I just feel like there's stuff happening. And I do like to think that there's stuff happening now with Flora. And I do hope that their eyes are looking at it and they know that, we are diligent on this. Meow and Allie and I aren't going to let up anytime soon. We have made our well, Sandra, there's a whole issue with the state's attorney general. Yes, you would think that you would want to be able to go to the Attorney General in Indiana and make them aware of all this. Indiana State's Attorney General has ties to this location. So I don't know how well that's going to work either, but it's certainly something to consider. I don't know any that practice in Indiana. That would be something that I would be willing to look into. I know there's some lawyers over on Reddit that I could probably talk to about that. And I think there's some that are from Indiana, and I could definitely try to find out if they would be willing to come on and talk and talk about general questions. And if anybody knows one, certainly reach out to them and ask them, the questions and ask them to get in contact with me. I would be willing to have anybody on like that to talk about, because the more experts that we can talk to on these subjects, the better off we are. Oh, digital. I doubt very seriously that Robert Ives is going to come on my show and talk to me. Yeah, he's not, there's no way. He's part of this investigation. And even though he's not there anymore, yeah, he's not. Hey, Derek, how are you? Thank you so much for your super sticker. That was so kind of you. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you. You're welcome, Sandra. Very welcome. I've already had the murder sheet on my show, Lynn, so I won't be having them on again. I had them on back in March, right after they dropped the first Kagan document. Oh, you're very welcome. I appreciate you guys. I really do. I couldn't have the channel without you, and you guys always make it worthwhile to be here. I always feel so supported by you, and it really makes me feel really good. And I really do thank you. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead, you guys, and say goodnight. And I will see you guys all on Saturday night. I hope you have a good Friday evening and get to do something with your families for enjoyment or for fun, or with your friends. Go out there and pay it forward. Do something nice for someone else. And remember about coincidences, guys, and facts. And when you're looking at all this crazy stuff that goes on around these cases, please remember to try to keep everything, focused. Keep an open mind, but don't get too crazy with it. We have to remain factual, and we have to be looking at facts. And so please make sure that you subscribe and like if you have not subscribed to my channel yet. I also have memberships available if you guys are interested in that. And that's a way for you to support my channel and support all the work and research that I do on these cases, or just buy me a coffee. Either one is totally acceptable. But I love you guys all, and I will see you all on Saturday. Have a great night.